I the asshole for altering my cousin's wedding dress after she gave it to me, then uninviting her from my wedding after she got upset about the changes? Original post. I 18th am getting married in the middle of October to my boyfriend 19. We are planning a smaller scale wedding with mostly just friends and family, and considering that we both have large extended families, it was definitely a challenge planning for that many people. To give you a general idea of how big my family, just my mom has 7 siblings, all of whom have children of their own. With our small budget, I was looking at redesigning or upcycling a wedding gown instead of devoting a huge amount of money towards a brand new dress. I mentioned my plans to a couple of people and was in the process of looking at options when my mom's oldest sister's daughter, my cousin Megan Fortiff, reached out to me. Megan got married in 2015, but the marriage didn't last long, and they got divorced soon after. I barely remember her husband as he never came to family gatherings, and Megan and my mom aren't particularly close, so I was surprised she was offering something so important after a long time of distance. Regardless, Megan offered to give me her wedding dress as it was my size, and she knew we were trying to avoid spending a lot on a small budget. I loved the idea, and the dress was beautiful. I made sure she was comfortable giving it to me rather than loaning it, and she assured me that it held no emotional significance, and she couldn't care less if she didn't have to hang on to it. I thanked her and took home the dress. One thing about me, however, is that I'm a very chaotic seamstress. I make the majority of my own clothes, and while I love the original dress, I wanted to make some small changes to the hem and neckline to fit the theme better. The original dress had a super full skirt with a long hem, and since my wedding is outside, I wanted to make sure it wouldn't be dragging in the dirt. So I took some layers off the underside, removed the trim, and removed the sleeves to tighten the bodice. I was so happy with how it turned out, and my mom and friends agreed that it was perfect. Here's when the trouble started. My mom had taken a picture of me trying on the dress and decided to send Megan a picture alongside another thank you. However, she responded with a cold comment over text and called me later that night. She said that I should have asked her permission before ruining her dress, and that if I had thought it was so ugly before, I should have bought my own. I tried to explain that the changes I made were small, and that I did ask before I took it if she wanted it back afterward. She blew up at me, saying that it was too different, and that she could never wear it again, even though she never gave the impression that she wanted to. Megan had already stated that she had no interest in getting remarried ever. I asked what she wanted me to do, and she snapped at me that it was too late. She hung up and has apparently been telling people I slutted out her wedding dress and made sure I would embarrass her by outdoing the original dress. I don't know what to do about it. The wedding is way too close to consider making myself a dress, and I have my heart set on having something unique and personal for my wedding. Her mother called both me and my mom, saying I should have asked, and that I'm a spoiled brat for taking advantage of Megan's kindness and generosity. My parents and a few family members think I should uninvite Megan and just wear the dress, but my aunt says I would break Megan's heart unless I find something else. Should I give up on my dress and see what else there is? Context. Megan and I are not super close due to the age gap and different lifestyles. She is the third cousin out of 21. I am the ninth. Megan, being the first girl child in the family, grew up with a lot of expectations and pressure. She ended up marrying a very religious and controlling husband. After her divorce, Megan went through what can best be described as a breakthrough and reevaluation of her life and ambitions. Since then, she has completely changed her job, appearance, and opinions. She is no longer an active member in family events and only takes part in important ones, like birthdays, funerals, and weddings. Despite this, we have never had any problems between us, and our interactions have always been civil and kind. The alterations I made were only limited to the skirt and bodice. The slutted out comment apparently stemmed from my removal of the sleeves, turning it into a sleeveless top, and raising the hem to a T length, which exposes my ankles. Someone pointed out to me that Megan's anger was a product of her own self-esteem, as she has naturally grown and gained weight since then, which I could definitely see even though she is still beautiful. I am definitely planning on regular updates if any more incidents happen up to the wedding, and a full breakdown with photos after the ceremony. Thank you to everyone for your kind messages and loving support. You've all made me feel so much better, and I appreciate you taking the time to comment. Update: as of yesterday, I found out from my fianc that Megan had reached out to him with false concern about how my homemade dress gave the wrong idea about our wedding. She had the audacity to ask him, the man I've been in love with for nearly 3 years, if he was sure he wanted to marry a woman who wouldn't put in the effort of getting a proper dress. She says this as if I hadn't spent weeks sewing the dress to make sure it was perfect. Thank goodness my fianc wasn't upset by her attitude and responded that I had put way more effort into the dress than she put into her marriage, and that shut her up real fast. She turned around and apparently has been crying to my elderly grandparents, her mother, and some of the other cousins, etc. I'm not even pregnant, along with a fianc who is only interested in our family's money. My fianc is a mechanic, and regardless of the fact that he is doing really well and makes a pretty good salary, she still seems to think he's beneath her. Some of my older cousins, the ones I don't talk to as much, have actually expressed concern about whether or not they want to go to the ceremony at all. I blame Maya for spreading misinformation, which I managed to assure them wasn't true. After all of this, I reached out to Megan, saying that because of all her comments and insults, she is no longer invited to the wedding. I admitted that I was sorry for the situation, but I can't keep pardoning her rude comments during what is supposed to be a happy time in my life. She snapped that she wouldn't show her face at my pathetic excuse for a wedding, and that she can't wait to see how I act when he leaves me. Overall, I am pretty confident that Megan and I's relationship might not recover, but at this point I don't regret anything. Here's hoping everything else cools down in the next couple of weeks, and I can go into our day with no negativity at all. Am I the asshole for altering my cousin's hand-me-down wedding dress after she told me I could have it? Top comments. Commenter 1. Wear the dress, invite the cousin, and use the pieces of the dress to make a decorative pillow for your rings and present it to her at the reception as the best cousin ever for gifting you the dress. It will be a public moment, and you will never hear about it again. Commenter 2. Totally NTA. Your mom blew it by taking photos and posting that. That was unfortunate. Do you have that text or email agreement as a paper trail of her IDC about the dress convo that you can refer back to? Sorry that you are going through this. This isn't something any soon-to-be bride needs to deal with. It truly sounds like she was more emotionally connected to that dress than she thought. There's nothing you can do at this point other than add a note of appreciation for her selfless offering of the dress. Don't uninvite her, just make sure one of your MOH is watching her on your day. Commenter 3 NTA. If your cousin didn't want it changed, she should have said don't make any alterations. It sounds like you made some sensible changes. Don't let her ruin your day. Commenter 4. Your cousin specifically told you that she was giving you the dress and didn't want it back, so now you are the owner of the dress. You can make any changes you want to it. She can't come back later and attach conditions to the gift. It's your dress op. You should wear it. Let your cousin know that you will be wearing the dress, and they are welcome to attend, but you understand if that's too much for them. Final update. Hi everyone, I made a post on this subreddit a few months ago about my 18th wedding dress and all the surrounding drama that came from it. I had been given my 40th cousin's old wedding dress from a failed marriage and altered it to better fit the needs of my ceremony and my style. She did not appreciate the changes and became very rude and hurtful. My wedding was 6 days ago, and I was asked to do an update, So I am happy to share how it all went down. I am still so happy with how my dress turned out, and was very glad to have shortened the train, as there had been rain the night before and morning dew on the grass. The shorter hemline saved me a lot of mess and damage in the long run. Plus, I felt beautiful, and it made such a special day all the more amazing. I had told my cousin Megan that her behavior was rude and unnecessary, and that I did not want her bringing her unpleasantness to my day. However, her mother, who had been one of her primary supporters, apologized in order to go to the ceremony. So, while Megan herself was not actually at the wedding, I had not completely excluded the issue. Megan's mother 70 owned, "My aunt is your basic senior white woman and usually expresses her opinions in a loud and outspoken manner, so I was uneasy in the beginning when she arrived. She didn't make a fuss throughout the ceremony, though, and everything went smoothly. I sneezed while walking down the aisle, but that wasn't anyone's fault. The reception was at an outdoor garden where we had set up under a gazebo, with a temporary floor for tables and eventually dancing, with a slightly elevated platform for the big table and speeches. This is where Maya decided to make sure everyone knew about her daughter's dress. After a few speeches, following my friend's champagne rendition of that time we went camping and the tent slid down a hill, she made her way up to the podium. She started her speech in the usual unassuming way, congratulating us and remarking on how far we've come as people. Unfortunately, she decided to tie this statement into a comment of "You've even made your own dress." I mean, not really actually, it was Megan's first. She then went on about how she remembered shopping for the dress with Megan for her own wedding and how it was perfect and made for her. At this point in the speech, I was just staring at her in confusion while my husband and everyone else just sat there awkwardly waiting for her to be done. She finished her speech with a half-hearted backtrack to me looking lovely and wishing us good luck on our marriage. She mumbled back to her seat and let the ceremony keep going, looking entirely too proud of herself. Update: the days leading up to the wedding felt like a whirlwind. After the drama with Megan, I was determined to focus on what truly mattered. Still, the tension lingered, and I found myself constantly worrying about what might happen on the big day. As the wedding day approached, I made sure to delegate tasks to my bridesmaids, who were more than willing to help keep things running smoothly. We spent countless hours putting together the decor, creating personalized centerpiece, and practicing our first dance. Each laugh and moment of camaraderie brought me closer to my friends, reminding me why I was excited to be getting married. On the morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. My mom and I had planned a small brunch to enjoy before the ceremony, a little tradition we'd started when I was younger. It was a chance to share some quiet moments and ease into the day. We reminisced about my childhood, my mom's wedding, and all the milestones that led us here. I couldn't help but feel grateful for her unwavering support. As I slipped into my dress, I felt a surge of confidence. The alterations I had made turned the hand-me-down gown into something uniquely mine. The tea-length hem was perfect for the outdoor setting, allowing me to move freely as I walked down the aisle. The sleeveless design made it feel fresh and modern. I took a deep breath. The venue was a picturesque garden filled with vibrant flowers and greenery. My fiancé had worked hard to make everything perfect, and I could see the care he put into the details. Guests began to arrive. I felt a sense of joy and anticipation bubbling inside me. When it was finally time for the ceremony, my heart raced. I walked down the aisle catching glimpses of smiling faces. The moment I saw my fiancé waiting for me at the altar, everything else faded away. His eyes lit up with love, and I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. As we exchanged vows, the world around us seemed to disappear. Our promises to each other felt sacred, and I could see tears of happiness in his eyes. We shared laughter, love, and joy, and at that moment, I knew the drama surrounding the dress didn't matter. What mattered was our commitment to each other and the life we were building together. After the ceremony, the reception kicked off in full swing. We danced, ate, and celebrated with our loved ones. I could feel the tension easing, replaced by laughter and joy. My bridesmaids surrounded me, and we hit the dance floor, creating unforgettable memories. As the night wore on, I noticed Maya mingling with guests. To my surprise, she didn't seem to cause any trouble. Perhaps she'd realized how important this day was to me and had chosen to set aside her feelings for the moment. I felt a sense of relief. The focus was finally on the celebration rather than past grievances. As the evening progressed, I found myself chatting with family members I hadn't seen in a while. We reminisced about old times and shared stories. It felt good to reconnect and focus on the positive. The love and support from those around me made the day even more special. Then came the moment I had been looking forward to: the speeches. My fiancé best man delivered a heartfelt tribute full of humor and sentiment. It was perfect. Then it was my turn to speak. I thanked everyone for being there and shared how much their support meant to me. Suddenly, my aunt stood up to say a few words. My heart raced as I braced myself, but to my surprise, she began by complimenting us and shared a story about her own wedding. I couldn't tell if it was genuine or if she was trying to save face, but I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this day was bringing us all together despite the bumps along the way. After her speech, she even came over to me with a smile, offering a sincere hug. It felt like a small step toward mending our relationship. I knew it wouldn't erase everything that had happened, but it was a start. As the night continued, I spotted Megan lurking at the edge of the garden. My heart sank a little. I hadn't expected her to show up at all. She looked out of place, her expression a mix of sadness and uncertainty. Part of me felt sympathy for her, but another part of me remained cautious. I wondered if this was an attempt to stir more drama. Later in the evening, as my husband and I were cutting the cake, I noticed Megan approaching. My stomach twisted with nerves. I didn't know how to react. She stood in front of me, her demeanor softer than it had been in our previous exchanges. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, glancing at my husband, who gave me an encouraging nod. "Sure," I replied, leading her to a quieter corner of the garden. We stood in silence for a moment, the sounds of laughter and celebration fading into the background. "I'm sorry for how I acted," she said finally, her voice filled with remorse. "I didn't mean to ruin your day." I took a breath, feeling the weight of our previous conversations. "I appreciate you saying that. It was a really special day for me, and I wanted it to be just about love and happiness." "I get that now," she admitted. "I guess I just wasn't ready to let go of the past. The dress was part of a time in my life that I've tried to move on from, but seeing you wear it made me feel weird." "I understand, but it was a gift. You said you didn't want it back, and I wanted to make it my own," I said gently. "I hope you can see that." She nodded slowly, looking contemplative. "I really do. I know I was harsh, and it's something I regret. I hope we can find a way to move forward, even if it takes time." I felt a flicker of hope. I'd like that too. Family is important, and I don't want this to be a wedge between us. As the night came to a close, we hugged, and I could feel the tension between us begin to dissolve. It wouldn't be an overnight fix, but this conversation was a step in the right direction. Later, as my husband and I danced under the stars, surrounded by our loved ones, I felt an overwhelming sense of joy and peace. The drama of the past few weeks melted away, leaving only the beauty of the present moment. In that instant, I realized that love, whether it's romantic or familial, is worth fighting for. No matter what had happened, my wedding day was a celebration of love, resilience, and new beginnings. And as we twirled together, I knew this was just the start of our journey, a journey filled with love, laughter, and hopefully a few more reconciliations along the way. Final update. As the last remnants of our wedding celebration faded, life slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The honeymoon was a blissful escape, a time for my Fyink and me to unwind and bask in the joy of being newlyweds. We traveled to a cozy beach destination where we spent lazy days soaking up the sun, exploring quaint towns, and indulging in local cuisine. It felt surreal to be starting this new chapter together. Upon our return, reality set in. We settled into our new routine, adjusting to married life while keeping an eye on the aftermath of the wedding drama. Surprisingly, the tensions within the family began to ease. Megan reached out a few days after the wedding, expressing genuine remorse for her behavior. We exchanged messages reflecting on our conversation at the reception. I appreciated her willingness to acknowledge her actions, and we began to rebuild our relationship. A few weeks later, I received an unexpected package in the mail. Inside was a beautifully wrapped gift-decorative pillow made from the remnants of her wedding dress. Attached was a heartfelt note from Megan, expressing her gratitude for the way I handled the situation, and her hope for a stronger bond moving forward. I was touched. It was a thoughtful gesture that symbolized our growing connection. As autumn settled in, our family dynamics began to shift. My aunt, having seen the reconciliation unfold, made an effort to reach out more. She invited us to a family dinner, and to my surprise, Megan was there. It felt like a fresh start. Laughter filled the room as we shared stories and memories. The awkwardness that once clouded our interactions began to dissipate, replaced by warmth and camaraderie. Months passed, and the holiday season approached. I found myself excited about spending time with family, grateful for the newfound harmony. Megan and I continued to grow closer, sharing coffee dates and planning a small family gathering. It was refreshing to see her as more than just my cousin. She became a confidant and a friend. On a chilly December evening, as the first snowflakes began to fall, I found myself reflecting on the journey. The chaos surrounding my wedding dress had been a storm that threatened to overshadow my special day, but it ultimately paved the way for healing and connection within my family. I realized that sometimes, even in difficult situations, there's a silver lining waiting to be discovered. As I decorated our home for the holidays with my husband, we hung ornaments on the tree, each one representing a memory we'd created together. In that moment, I understood that love, be it familial or romantic, has the power to mend wounds, bridge gaps, and create lasting bonds. Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing about my wedding dress journey. It had tested my patience and resilience, but it also reminded me of the importance of family, forgiveness, and love. As we prepared for the new year, I felt optimistic about the future, excited for the adventures that awaited us. With each passing day, I embraced the love surrounding me, my supportive husband, my friends who stood by my side, and the family bonds that were slowly healing. The struggles we faced had shaped us, and as we stepped into a new year, I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that love would always be our guiding light. And so the story of my wedding dress, once filled with drama and tension, transformed into a narrative of healing growth. It was a reminder that every chapter, no matter how challenging, can lead to a brighter, more hopeful ending.